The EU's defiance had not moved in 60 years. She sat in her dock at the Kepler-7 Orbital Heritage Center like an old soldier frozen in time. Her hull was gray and scarred from battles that most people had forgotten. Her railgun batteries pointed at nothing. Her fusion core was cold and silent. Children walked through her corridors on school trips. Tourists took pictures beside her ancient weapons. Nobody thought of her as a warship anymore. She was just a thing to look at. A memory of a war that ended before most people were born. Alina Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Heritage Center and watched the stars. She was 67 years old. Her hair was white and her hands had spots from age. Once she had been Fleet Admiral Alina Vasquez, the youngest commander in Earth's history to lead a battle group. Now she was the museum curator. She gave tours. She answered questions from children who did not care about the answers. She told stories about the first expansion, or two people who thought war was something that happened in history books. She liked the quiet life. She had earned it. The first explosion changed everything. Alina saw it before she heard the alarms. A bright flash in the darkness of space, followed by another, then another. She pressed her face to the glass and watched as Earth's modern fleet. The pride of humanity began to die. The ships were beautiful. They were sleek and white and full of technology that Alina did not understand. They had been built for parades and diplomatic missions. They had never fired their weapons in anger. Now, they burned like paper in a fire. The enemy came through hyperspace in waves. Their ships were black and angular, covered in weapons that glowed with purple light. Alina counted 50 of them, then 100. Then she stopped counting, the Veluxi Confederacy. She had heard rumors about them for years. An alien empire that watched humanity from the edges of known space. Diplomats said they were not a threat. Military advisors said they were too far away to matter. Everyone said there would never be another war. Everyone was wrong. The alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. People ran past Alina, pushing and shouting. A woman fell, and nobody stopped to help her. A man carried a crying child toward the escape pods. The Heritage Center shook as something exploded. Nearby, Alina did not run. She watched the battle with old eyes that had seen war before. She watched the modern fleet break apart. She watched escape pods launch and get shot down. She watched humanity lose. A young officer grabbed her arm. His face was pale with fear. He shouted something about evacuation, about getting to safety, about following protocol. Alina looked at him and saw a boy who had never known real danger. She gently removed his hand from her arm. She walked away from the observation deck. She walked past the panicked crowds. She walked down a corridor that led to the old ship. The ship that everyone had forgotten. The ship that nobody thought would ever fly again. The bridge of the Defiance smelled like dust and old metal. Alina stood in the doorway and looked at the command chair where she had sat 200 years of human history ago. The screens were dark. The consoles were covered in a thin layer of gray dust. Emergency lights flickered weakly in the ceiling. She walked to the command console and placed her palm on its surface. The metal was cold. She closed her eyes and remembered what it felt like to be young and strong and unafraid. "One more time, old girl," she whispered. One more time, she found the emergency broadcast system. It was old technology, simple and reliable. She turned it on and spoke into the microphone. Her voice was calm and steady, the voice of a commander who had sent soldiers into battle and brought them home again. "This is Admiral Alina Vasquez, tired. I am aboard the used Defiance at the Kepler-7 Heritage Center. Earth's fleet is destroyed. The enemy is coming. If you can hear this, if you remember how to fight, if you are not afraid to die, come to me. We have one ship. We have one chance. Come to the Defiance." She turned off the microphone and waited. The first person arrived 20 minutes later. His name was Kofi Asante. He was 73 years old, and his hands shook from a condition that doctors could not cure. But his eyes were sharp, and he carried a toolkit that looked older than he was. "I built the fusion core on this ship," he said. "I can make her run again." More people came. Yuki Tanaka, 82, who had designed the targeting systems. Marcus Chen, 71, who had been the best pilot in the fleet before age, took his reflexes. Adora Okonkwo, 78, who had trained soldiers for 40 years. Samuel Say, 69, a doctor who refused to retire. Wei Zhou, 76, who knew every wire and circuit on the ship. 17 people answered the call. The youngest was 58. The oldest was 91. They came with gray hair and wrinkled skin and bodies that hurt when they moved. They came with memories of a war that the galaxy had forgotten. They came because they remembered what it meant to fight. Alina looked at her crew. They stood on the bridge of the Defiance, surrounded by dust and darkness. Outside, the Veluxy fleet moved toward Earth. The modern ships were gone. The space stations were burning. Humanity was losing a war that had just begun. You know what they will say? Alina told her crew. They will say, "We are old." They will say, "We are weak." They will say, "We have no chance." She smiled. It was the smile of a woman who had nothing left to lose. They said that about us before. They were wrong then. They are wrong now. This ship is 200 years old. We are old, but we are not finished. And we are not afraid. Kofi walked to the engineering station. His shaking hands moved across controls that he had built when he was young. The fusion core coughed. It sputtered. Then it roared to life, filling the ship with light and power. The Defiance woke up. Her screens flickered on. Her systems hummed. Her weapons powered up with a sound like thunder. She was old. She was tired, but she was alive. The Veluxy fleet passed the Heritage Center without stopping. They did not scan the museum. They did not check the old ship. Why would they? She was a relic, a piece of history. She was nothing. That was their first mistake. Alina sat in the command chair. Around her, 17 old soldiers prepared for war. They had no support. They had no backup. They had only each other and a ship that the galaxy had forgotten. It was enough. Let them come, Alina said. Let them learn what happens when they wake the dead. The used Defiance moved for the first time in 60 years. Her engines burned bright against the darkness. And somewhere in the void, an enemy that had never known defeat was about to learn the meaning of fear. The Defiance hid in the shadow of a dead moon while her crew worked through the night. Every light on the ship was turned off. Every system that could make noise was silenced. They floated in darkness like a ghost, visible to the Veluxy sensors that swept across the system. Kofi Asante had not slept in 36 hours. His hands shook worse than usual, but his mind was clear. He lay on his back under the main power coupling, his old body pressed against cold metal. Wires hung around him like vines. Sparks flew as he connected circuits that had been dead for decades. The fusion core was alive, but she was sick. 60 years of silence had damaged her in ways that could not be fixed quickly. Kofi talked to her as he worked, whispering encouragement like a father to a sick child. "Come on, old friend," he said. "I know you are tired. I am tired too. But we need you. Just a little more power. Just a little more time." On the bridge, Yuki Tanaka sat at the weapons station. Her right eye was covered by a patch. She had lost it in a battle 50 years ago, and she had never bothered to get it replaced. She said it reminded her to always watch her blind side. Her fingers moved across the targeting controls. They were old controls, built in a time when computers were simple and soldiers did most of the thinking. Modern ships used artificial intelligence to aim their weapons. The Defiance used human eyes and human judgment. "The targeting system is working," Yuki reported, "but the calibration is wrong. I need to fix it by hand." "How long?" Alina asked. "Hours? Maybe days? I have to remember how." Alina nodded. They had time. The Veluxy thought they had one. They were busy occupying human colonies and destroying military bases. They were not looking for a museum ship crewed by senior citizens. That was good. Alina needed every advantage she could get. Marcus Chen sat in the pilot chair, his hands resting on controls that felt strange and familiar at the same time. He had been the best pilot in the fleet once. His reflexes had been faster than anyone else. He could fly a ship through an asteroid field blindfolded, That was 40 years ago. Now, his reflexes were slow. His hands sometimes did not do what his brain told them. He had been grounded at age 55, told that he was too old to fly combat missions. He had spent the last 16 years teaching young pilots who did not respect him. Now he was flying again, and he was afraid, not afraid of dying. He had made peace with death long ago. He was afraid of failing, afraid that his old body would not respond when it mattered, afraid that he would get his crew killed because he was too slow, too weak, too old. Alina saw the fear in his eyes. She walked to his chair and put a hand on his shoulder. "I chose you for a reason," she said quietly. "Not because of who you were. Because of who you are?" "I am old," Marcus said. "My hands shake. My eyes are not as good as they used to be." Alina smiled. "So are mine. So are all of ours. But we have something that young pilots do not have. We have experience. We have wisdom. We have patience. Those things matter more than fast reflexes." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded and turned back to his controls. In the crew quarters, Sergeant Major Adora Okonkwo pushed her team hard. She had them running drills in the corridors, practicing combat movements, learning to work together as a unit. She shouted at them when they made mistakes. She made them repeat exercises until their old muscles burned with pain. Dr. Samuel Asay watched with worried eyes. He was the ship's medic, responsible for keeping everyone alive. He saw the exhaustion on their faces. He saw the way they limped and gasped for breath. "You are pushing them too hard," he told Adora. "They are not young soldiers. They will break." Adora turned to face him. Her eyes were like stone. "We do not have time to be gentle. The enemy will not wait for us to rest. They need to be ready. They need to be alive," Samuel said firmly. "Dead soldiers cannot fight." Before Adora could respond, Alina appeared in the doorway. She looked at the exhausted crew, then at Adora. "We are not soldiers anymore," Alina said. Her voice was calm, but firm. "We are something more dangerous. We are people with nothing left to lose. We fight because we choose to, not because we are ordered to." Remember that Adora was silent for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. She turned to the crew and told them to rest. They would continue training tomorrow. Days passed. The crew worked and rested and worked again. Slowly, the Defiance came back to life. Her weapons were calibrated. Her shields were repaired. Her engines were tuned. Alina called a meeting on the bridge. She showed them images from the Veluxi fleet. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of soldiers. Technology that humanity could not match. "They think they have one," Alina said. "They think we are defeated. They are not looking for threats. They are not expecting resistance." She pointed to a small dot on the star map. An unmanned Veluxi probe orbiting alone in empty space. It was gathering information, sending data back to the enemy fleet. "This is our first target," Alina said. "Small, undefended, perfect for a test." "A test?" Weijo asked. His burned hands were wrapped in bandages from repairing power conduits. "We need to know if this ship can still fight," Lena explained. "We need to know if we can still fight. This probe will tell us." The crew voted. 17 hands rose in agreement. There was no fear in their eyes. Only determination. The Defiance moved through space like a shadow. Her old stealth systems were different from anything the Veluxi had encountered. Their sensors could not see her. Their computers could not identify her. She was invisible. Marcus flew with careful precision. His hands were steady on the controls. His old eyes watched the screens with fierce concentration. The probe appeared in their view, small and silver, spinning slowly in the void. "YUK," I locked the targeting system. Her one good eye narrowed. The railguns hummed with power. "Fire," Alina said. The Defiance roared. Her ancient weapons spoke with thunder and light. The probe vanished in a ball of fire. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Kofi laughed. It was a loud, joyful sound that filled the bridge. "She still has teeth," he said. Old teeth, but sharp. Alina smiled. Around her, 17 old soldiers cheered. They had won their first battle. It was small. It was insignificant. But it was proof. Proof that the dead could rise. Proof that the forgotten could strike. Proof that humanity was not finished. The Veluxi would learn soon. They would learn that age was not weakness. They would learn that experience was a weapon. They would learn that they had made a terrible mistake. The ghosts had learned to bite, and they were hungry for more. Whisper Station floated in the darkness between two dead planets. It was a Veluxi communications hub, a massive structure of black metal and purple lights. Every message from the occupation forces passed through its systems. Every order, every report, every secret. Alina stood on the bridge of the Defiance and studied the station on her screens. 12 enemy warships guarded it. Hundreds of soldiers defended its corridors. It was a fortress that no sane commander would attack. Alina had never been completely sane. If we destroy that station, she told her crew, the enemy loses their ability to coordinate. Their ships will be blind. Their soldiers will be confused. We can give humanity a chance. We have one ship, Marcus said. They have 12. We have surprise, Alina replied. And we have something they do not expect. What is that? Yuki asked. Experience, Alina said. We have fought wars they never studied. We know tactics they have never seen. They prepared to fight modern humans. They did not prepare to fight us. The crew gathered around the strategy table. Alina explained her plan. It was dangerous. It was desperate. It was probably suicide. Nobody complained. Nobody suggested surrender. They had come too far to stop now. The Defiance moved toward Whisper Station under complete silence. Her old stealth systems confused the enemy's sensors. They saw her as debris. They saw her as radiation noise. They saw her as nothing. Marcus flew with the patience of a man who had spent a lifetime learning when to wait and when to act. He did not rush. He did not panic. He guided the ship through the patrol routes, avoiding detection by inches. Closer, closer, closer. The first Veluxi ship saw them when they were already inside the defense perimeter. Alarms screamed across enemy frequencies. Ships turned to intercept. Weapons powered up, too late. Alina gave the order. And the Defiance attacked. Her railguns fired in patterns that the Veluxi had never encountered. They were tactics from the first expansion war, abandoned decades ago, because modern computers could predict them. But the Veluxi computers had no data on these old methods. They could not predict what they had never seen. The first enemy ship exploded before it could raise shields. The second lost its engines and drifted helplessly. The third tried to flee and was cut down from behind. The Defiance moved through the chaos like a dancer. Marcus flew with a grace that surprised even himself. His hands moved without thinking. His old instincts returned like muscle memory. On the weapons station, Yuki targeted with the cold precision of a surgeon. Her one eye never blinked. Her hands never trembled. Each shot found its mark, but the enemy recovered quickly. The remaining ships formed a defensive formation around the station. Their weapons filled space with deadly fire. The Defiance shook as energy beams struck her shields. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The old ship groaned under the assault. In engineering, Kofi fought to keep power flowing. His shaking hands danced across controls, rerouting energy, closing damaged circuits, keeping the ship alive by pure willpower. A conduit exploded near Wei Zhou. Fire burst across the engineering deck. Wei did not hesitate. He grabbed the emergency tools and began repairs even as flames licked at his skin. The pain was terrible, but he did not stop. He could not stop. The ship needed him. Dr. Samuel Lasay ran through the corridors with medical supplies. He found wounded crew members at every turn, burns, broken bones, bleeding wounds. He treated them where they fell, his old hands steady despite the chaos around him. Then his chest tightened. Pain shot down his left arm. He recognized the symptoms immediately. Heart attack. He should stop. He should rest. He should save himself. he kept moving. There were people who needed him. He could rest when the battle was over. On the bridge, Alina watched the battle unfold. They were winning, but barely. The station was still intact. The remaining enemy ships were regrouping for a final assault. A communication signal flashed on her console. The enemy wanted to talk. The face of a Veluxy commander appeared on screen. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes like black pools. He spoke in perfect human language, his voice cold and mocking. "You fight well for dying creatures in a dying ship," the commander said. "But this is over. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick." Alina looked at him. She thought about all the years she had spent waiting for this moment. All the years of peace that had made humanity soft. All the years that the Veluxy had spent watching and planning and preparing. She thought about her crew, old men and women who had answered her call, who had left their quiet lives to fight one more time, who were bleeding and burning and dying for a species that had forgotten them. She opened a channel to all frequencies. Every ship in the system would hear her response. Every Veluxy. Every human listening in secret. "Nuts," she said. The Veluxy commander looked confused. He did not understand the reference. He did not know about the human general who had used the same word to refuse surrender. Centuries ago, that confusion cost him 3 seconds. 3 seconds that the Defiance used to fire every weapon she had directly at Whisper Station. The station's shields flickered. Its power systems overloaded. Explosions rippled across its surface. Then it broke apart in a ball of fire and light. The Veluxy commander screamed orders to his remaining ships, but it was too late. Their communications were gone. Their coordination was broken. They fought as individuals now, not as a fleet. The Defiance escaped into the asteroid belt while the enemy ships stumbled over each other in confusion. Behind her, Whisper Station burned. Samuel Assay collapsed in the medical bay. His heart had stopped twice during the battle. He had restarted it himself with the ship's emergency equipment. Now he lay on a table, alive but weak. While his assistant finished treating the wounded Way, Joe's hands were wrapped in white bandages. The burns were serious. He would carry scars for the rest of his life. He did not complain. He was alive. The ship was alive. That was enough. Alina stood on the bridge and watched the distant fire of the destroyed station. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. But she knew this was only the beginning. The Veluxy would respond. They would hunt the Defiance. They would try to destroy this ship and its crew of stubborn old soldiers. Let them try, Alina thought. Let them learn what happens when they corner people who refuse to die across occupied space. Resistance cells recorded the battle. The footage spread through hidden networks, passed from person to person in secret. Humanity watched 17 senior citizens defeat a Veluxy fleet. They watched an old museum ship destroy an enemy fortress. They watched and they remembered what it meant to fight. Hope spread like fire. And the Veluxy had no idea how to stop it. The message came from a cargo ship hiding in the rings of Saturn. It was simple. For words that changed everything, we have a ship. Alina read the message 3 times. Then another message arrived. This one came from a mining colony near Jupiter. We have 2 ships. Old patrol boats. Hidden for decades. Tell us where to go. Then more messages. From Earth's moon. From Mars. From stations scattered across human space. People had been hiding things. Old ships. Old weapons. Old technology that the government had ordered destroyed after the first expansion war. They had disobeyed. They had kept their secrets for generations, passing them down from parent to child like family treasures. They had always believed that someday, humanity would need them again. That day had come. Within a week, Alina commanded a fleet of 12 ships. They were old and tired, like her crew. A frigate that had been stored in pieces in a lunar warehouse. 3 patrol corvettes hidden in the asteroid belt. A destroyer that a merchant captain had inherited from her grandfather. Ships that should have been scrap metal. Crewed by people who should have been. Resting in comfortable homes, they called themselves the Ghost Fleet. The name spread through the resistance. Networks like a song, the Veluxi did not understand what was happening. Their intelligence officers reported that Earth's military had been completely destroyed. All modern warships had been captured or eliminated. The occupation was proceeding according to plan, but ships kept appearing from nowhere. Old ships that did not match any records. Ships that attacked supply convoys and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Ships that used tactics so outdated that Veluxi computers could not predict them. Admiral Koth studied the reports with growing frustration. He was the supreme commander of the Veluxi invasion force, a brilliant strategist who had never lost a battle. He had planned this war for decades. He had studied human technology, human tactics, human psychology. He had not studied human stubbornness. These ships are antiques, his aide said. They should not be a threat, and yet they are winning, Velkoth replied. He stared at images of the Defiance, the museum ship that had destroyed Whisper Station. How? How does a ship that belongs in a museum defeat our finest warships? They fight without logic, the aide said. They attack when they should retreat. They sacrifice themselves for tactical gains that make no sense. Velkoth was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. They are not fighting to win, he said slowly. They are fighting to inspire. Every battle they survive makes more humans believe resistance is possible. Every ship we lose makes our soldiers doubt. This is not a military campaign. It is a war of belief. He made a decision. The Defiance had to be destroyed, not just defeated. Destroyed completely, publicly, in a way that would crush human hope forever. He laid his trap carefully. The Meridian shipyards held thousands of human refugees. Civilians who had fled the occupation and had nowhere else to go. Women, children, elderly people, waiting for rescue that would never come. Velkoth moved his fleet into position around the shipyards. Then he waited. Alina received the intelligence report on a cold morning. She stood on the bridge of the Defiance and read the numbers. 12,000 refugees. 50 Veluxi warships. A killing zone designed specifically to destroy her fleet. It is a trap, Marcus said. He stood beside her, his old face lined with worry. They want us to come. They are waiting for us, I know, Elena said. If we go, we will die. Elena looked at him. If we do not go, 12,000 people will die. Children, families, people who are counting on us. We cannot save everyone, Marcus said. His voice was heavy with pain. We do not have enough ships. We do not have enough weapons. We cannot win this fight. Alina turned to face her crew. They had gathered on the bridge, 17 old soldiers who had followed her into battle again and again. They were tired. They were wounded. Some of them would not survive another fight. She told them about the refugees. She told them about the trap. She told them the truth. If we go, most of us will probably die. The odds are impossible. The enemy is prepared for us. This could be the end of everything we have built. She paused. Her eyes moved from face to face. But those people need us. They have no one else. If we do not go, they will be slaughtered. Their deaths will prove that hope was foolish, that resistance was pointless, that humanity should have surrendered. Silence filled the bridge. Then Kofi spoke. I did not survive 60 years to watch children die because I was afraid. He stepped forward. I vote we go. Yuki nodded. I have seen enough war to know that some things are worth dying for. I vote we go. One by one, they voted. Samuel, still weak from his heart attack. Wei, his burned hands wrapped in bandages. Adora, Marcus, all of them. 17 votes. Unanimous. Alina felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away. Then we go, she said. We spring the trap. We save who we can. And we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. She opened a channel to the other ships in her fleet. 11 old vessels crewed by old soldiers and stubborn civilians. She told them the plan. She told them the risks. Every ship volunteered. That night, Alina recorded a message. She did not know if anyone would ever see it. But she needed to say the words, "We are not young. We are not strong. We do not have the best weapons or the fastest ships. But we have something the enemy does not understand. We have each other. We have hope. We have the belief that some things are worth fighting for." Even when the fight seems impossible, she paused and looked at the camera. "Tomorrow, we fly into a trap. We will probably die. But we will die standing. We will die fighting. We will die proving that humanity does not surrender, does not give up, does not abandon its people." She smiled. It was the smile of a woman at peace with her choice. If this is the end, let it be a good end. Let it be an end that makes our enemies afraid. Let it be an end that makes our children proud. The Ghost Fleet gathered in the darkness of space. 12 old ships. Hundreds of old soldiers. One impossible mission: they flew toward Meridian. They flew toward death, and they did not hesitate. The Ghost Fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly into the Veluxi formation. 12 old ships against 50 warships? It was suicide. It was madness. Admiral Velkoth watched from his flagship and smiled. The trap had worked. The humans had come to save their refugees, just as he predicted. Now he would destroy them and end this rebellion forever. "Spring the trap," he ordered. "Destroy them all." The Veluxi fleet moved like a closing fist. Ships surrounded the Ghost Fleet from every direction. Weapons powered up. Targeting systems locked, but the humans did not wait to be killed. Alina gave the order, and the Ghost Fleet scattered in 12 different directions. They did not fight as a unit. They fought as individuals, each ship choosing its own path through the enemy formation. It was chaos. Beautiful, unpredictable chaos. The Veluxi computers struggled to track so many targets moving in so many directions. Their formations broke as ships turned to pursue different enemies. Their coordinated attack became a confused mess. On Meridian Station, the refugees watched the battle through observation windows. They had accepted death. They had said goodbye to each other. Now they saw old ships fighting for their lives, and they decided to fight back. A mining foreman named Carlos grabbed a welding torch and ran toward the docking bay. Others followed him: engineers, mechanics, ordinary people with ordinary tools and extraordinary courage. They found mining equipment in the cargo holds. Drilling lasers meant for asteroids. Cutting beams designed to slice through rock. They pointed them at the sky. Transport pilots climbed into cargo shuttles that had no weapons. They flew toward the Veluxi ships and rammed them at full speed. They died instantly, but they took enemy fighters with them. Children gathered in the communication center and hacked into gaming networks that the Veluxi had never thought to monitor. They used gaming software to track enemy ship movements and broadcast the information to the Ghost Fleet. The battle became something the Veluxi had never seen. Civilians fighting with mining equipment, pilots sacrificing themselves in unarmed ships, children helping target enemy vessels. It was not a military engagement. It was a people refusing to die quietly. Velkoth watched in disbelief as his organized assault fell apart. His ships were being damaged by mining lasers. His fighters were being destroyed by cargo shuttles. His formations were being tracked by children playing video games. "This is impossible," he said. "They have no training. They have no weapons. How are they doing this?" Nobody answered. Nobody understood. On the Defiance, Alina led her ship directly toward Velkoth's flagship. The old vessel took hit after hit. Her shields failed. Her hull cracked. Fire spread through her corridors. In engineering, Kofi fought to keep the reactor stable. It was failing. The ancient systems could not handle the damage. Alarms screamed warnings about imminent breach. "Just a little longer," Kofi whispered to his ship. "Just a little longer, old friend. One more fight. One more victory. Then you can rest." "Why?" "UK I targeted with blood running down her face from a head wound. Her one good eye never wavered. Her hands never stopped moving." Wei collapsed at his station, his burned hands finally giving out. A young refugee who had come aboard to help took his place. Following his whispered instructions, Samuel moved through the ship, treating wounds with supplies that had run out hours ago. He tore strips from his own clothing to use as bandages. He ignored the pain in his chest that warned him his heart was failing again. Marcus flew with everything he had. The enemy flagship loomed ahead, massive and deadly. Fighters swarmed around him. Weapons fire filled his screens. His old hands should have been too slow. His old reflexes should have failed. But something happened in that moment. Something that science could not explain. He flew like he was young again. He dodged attacks that should have killed him. He found paths through the enemy formation that should not have existed. He flew like a man possessed by the ghost of who he used to be. The Defiant screamed through the Galaxy formation and emerged on the other side. Directly facing Velkoth's flagship, her weapons were damaged. Her shields were gone. She had nothing left, nothing except one final shot. YUKI fired everything. Every railgun. Every missile. Every weapon that still worked. The Defiance emptied herself in one massive attack. Velkoth's flagship exploded. The Admiral had one moment to understand what had happened. One moment to realize that he had been defeated by elderly humans and ancient ships. One moment to feel something he had never felt before. Fear. Then he was gone. The Veluxy fleet fell into chaos. Their commander was dead. Their communications were disrupted. Their confidence was shattered. The Ghost fleet pressed the attack. The refugees kept fighting, and one by one, the enemy ships began to retreat. They fled. The mighty Veluxy Confederacy, conquerors of 100 worlds, ran from a museum ship and a group of old soldiers. The Defiance drifted in space, broken and burning. Her crew gathered on the bridge, surrounded by smoke and sparks. Half of them were wounded. All of them were exhausted. But they were alive. And they had won. Alina sat in her command chair and looked at the stars. The enemy was retreating. The refugees were safe. Humanity had proven that it would not surrender. A communication signal appeared on her console. Velkoth's replacement, demanding to know how this had happened. How had primitives and obsolete ships defeated the greatest military force in the galaxy? Alina opened the channel. Her voice was tired but strong. "You studied our technology," she said. "You should have studied our hearts." She closed the channel and turned to her crew. "It is over," she said. "We did it." The Defiance could not be repaired. Her hull was too damaged. Her systems were too broken. She had given everything she had in that final battle. They towed her to a new memorial site. A place of honor where all of humanity could see her. She would never fly again. But she would never be forgotten. Alina retired for real this time. She was 70 years old and tired in ways that sleep could not fix. Reporters asked her what she wanted her legacy to be. She thought about her crew, about Kofi and Yuki and Marcus and all the others who had answered her call, about the refugees who had fought with mining equipment, about the children who had helped win a battle with video games. She smiled. "Tell them that being old does not mean being finished," she said. "Tell them that being outmatched does not mean being defeated. Tell them that as long as one person refuses to give up, there is always hope." The used Defiance sat in her memorial, silent and still. Around her, children played. Tourists took pictures. People came from across the galaxy to see the ship that had changed history. She had been a museum exhibit, a relic, a piece of the past. Then the war began, and she became something more. She became proof that the human spirit could not be conquered. She became legend.